Namaskar, Om Shakti Hrim Namah Shivaya. Todala Tantra, the worship of Kali. To many Hindu Bengalis, Kali is the most important divinity. Identified with the great goddess Devi Bhagavati, she subsumes all other goddesses. She is held to be equal in status to Durga and the annual festival, which occur close to each other, are celebrated with the greatest grandeur. Feasts are held, gifts are exchanged, and new clothes are worn in honor of the goddess. Both Durga and Kali, facets of the same supreme goddess, are fierce and aggressive. The goddess is embodiment of the divine power, potency and dynamism. After the great dissolution of the world, she regenerates the creation and sustains it, until the time arrives when she must withdraw it into herself. She possesses both negative and positive elements in her divine personality. She is a nurturing mother of created beings, as well as a sovereign cosmic ruler who maintains cosmic law and order through her invincible power and irresistible energy. She punishes the evil and rewards the righteous. Above all, she protects all her creatures and is especially kind and sweet to her loyal devotees, like an indulgent mother to her devoted children. The cult of Kali has a long history of development in which her character has undergone many changes. In essay of Chinese and Tantric tradition, Sanderson explains that in the 9th and 10th centuries, Kashmiri Tantric exegetes classified and systematized Tantric texts according to the various cults, mainly of goddesses and fearsome gods. The main emphasis on specific mantras and esoteric practice associated with those mantras, one of which is called the seat of awareness, Vidyapitha. The texts dealing with the most esoteric Kali cults are associated with the Vidyapitha. The practice they prescribe includes the so-called left-hand tradition, Vama Marga Tantra, antinomian practice that involve alcohol, blood and sex. This came to be called Kaula practice. The name Vidya here denotes esoteric mantras that are considered embodiments of the supreme knowledge of awareness that is indeed Kali. Here she is called Kali not because of her dark complexion, but because she absorbs and transcends time, Kala, and thus the eternal transcendental reality, Kala Samkarshini. Kali thus became the supreme godhead of the cult, transcending even Shiva. This Kali cult developed through various streams and survived in the cult of Guhya Kali, worshipped in Nepal as Guhyeshwari and in Mithila even today. At the same period in Kashmir there grew up a strong parallel tantric cult known as the cult of the three goddesses, the Trika. They are para, transcendent, para, transcendent as well as material, and apara, only material. The second and the third are related to the cosmic process of creation. The second is a state in which the transcendent unity of reality is disturbed and the goddess experiences the state of polarization existing within herself, which heralds the next moment in the cosmic evolution of diverse recreation. As Saint Sanderson points out, these two cults affected one another. The cult of the three goddesses and the of Kali were not separate off from each other in the manner of rival sects. In Jayadratha Yamala Tantra shows that the devotees of Kali had developed their own version of the cult of the three goddesses. The Trika in their turn assimilated these and other new and more esoteric treatments from the left. Consequently, we find a later Trika in which Kalasamkarshini has been introduced to be worshipped above the three goddesses of the trident. This tendency continued throughout the history of the Kali cult and is clearly noticeable in the Shakti Sangama Tantra, in which the three goddesses of the Vidyas, Kali, Tara and China, that is Chinamasta, form of kind of triad. Indeed, Sanderson has described how the adherents of the Kali cult interpreted the name Kali. So, as Abhivana Gupta tells us in his Tantra Loka, the autonomous consciousness which is the absolute is called Kali, because it throws in the sense that it projects the universe, causing to appear as though beyond it, because through it in the projection returns to its identity as cognition, because it knows the projected, in the sense that it represents, it is identical with its own identity, because it enumerates the projection in the sense that it distinguishes each element from all the others within its own unity, and because it sounds in the sense that when it has dissolved the projection, it continues as a resonance of internal self-awareness. In the Mahavidya cult, the primary goddess emanation from Kali, the Supreme, and the Absolute Consciousness form a horizontal triad at the cosmic differentiated level, that is Mahamaya, Sundari and Bhairavi, to replace the Puranic triad of Brahma, Vishnu and Rudra. Also Brahma and so on were not totally removed from their cosmic function, they moved to a subservient position. The Todala Tantra translated below was probably composed relatively late in the 14th century. It's a small Tantra that contains 10 chapters, patalas. It became very popular in Bengal, especially in the early modern period, and has been quoted as a scriptural authority in many Bengali priestly handbooks such as the Purahita Darpana on the ritual worship of Dakshina Kali, and also called Adya Kali. Our text is mainly interested in the ritual worship of Kali and other Mahavidyas. It mentions all the Mahavidyas who are here more than 10 in number, and also mentions their companions who are different manifestations of Shiva. It subsequently gives all the ritual sequence needed for the worship of the first two Mahavidyas, including the esoteric formulas and the accompanied process of meditation. It also records a complete program of Shiva worship with mantras and so on, which seems to be the same for every manifestation. According to it, it is imperative to worship Shiva immediately after worshipping the relevant Mahavidya. In the traditional way, the text is presented as a dialogue between Shiva and his divine spouse Parvati, who is the pupil and the interlocutor, whereas Shiva is the teacher of the sacred science, Shastra. Very little theological or ontological discussion is found in the text, so often is a reference to the ultimacy of Kali. The text gives important information about the esoteric meaning of the mantras of the first three Mahavidyas and the practice of Tantric Yoga. The etheric Kundalini Yoga receives special treatment, inheriting the Krama tradition of monistic power, theism, Shakti Advaita. The Todala Tantra asserts that esoteric yoga is higher than exoteric rituals, as the latter involve differentiated awareness, whereas yoga does not. This elaborated by means of a description of Kundalini Yoga, giving a detailed parallel of the microcosm with the macrocosm. Kundalini Yoga leads to release from samsara as the yogin becomes one with the goddess, having severed the veil of delusion, maya, by means of vidya, knowledge. In connection with etheric yoga practice, our text gives three important yogic postures: the Yoni Mudra, Svalpa Yoni Mudra, and Kakikancha Mudra. All are postures for practicing Kundalini Yoga, where controlling the flow of air in the body by blocking all natural outlets of aura is of the highest importance. Also, it presents mantras and rituals concerning the Mahavidyas. The treatment is so brief that the text needs to be supplemented by the handbooks, such as the Tantra Sara. In order to understand the theological background of our text, we have to turn to other scriptural sources from the medieval period. They mainly belong to Eastern India, and some may be from Bengal. By this time, the Tara Ugratara Ekajata cult of the Buddhist Tantric tradition merged into the Kali and other Mahavidya cults represented in the Todala Tantra. To understand the history and nature of Kali, the supreme goddess in Eastern India in the medieval period, three texts can be considered the most important. One is the Shakti Sangama Tantra, a large compendium of the rituals and mantras and other esoteric practice associated with Kali and her other manifestation. This text, as well as the Tantra Sara and the Devi Mahatmya, which constitutes the final section of the Markandeya Purana, have shaped the Tantric philosophy, theology and practice of the Kali cult in Bengal. Whereas the Devi Mahatmya is simply called Chandi, First Lady, the devout tantrics recites it daily. In fact, Kali iconography is followed by the traditional image markers shows traces of the description of the goddess Kali in the text. The Devi Mahatmya represents Kali as a minor emanation of the goddess, a demonic figure, fearsome and grotesque, having emanated from the angry third eye of the supreme goddess to help the goddess in the battle against the demon, host of Shumba and Nishumba. She was employed to lick up every drop of blood of Raktabija, the demon general. Raktabija's peculiarity was that even a drop of his blood shed on the ass produced countless clones. Kali, lolling tongue, symbolizes this blood-licking task. Her demonic nature is also symbolized by her fangs and by the countless severed heads and limbs dripping blood that cover her body. She is intoxicated by drinking blood, and in her frenzy she laughs loudly, baring her upper teeth. The Kalika Purana, on the other hand, describes Kali as possessing a soothing dark complexion, as perfectly beautiful, riding a lion, and forearmed, holding a sword and blue lotuses, her hair unrestrained, body firm and youthful. A certain view is found in such tantric texts as the Shakti Sangama Tantra, where Kali, naked, is seated on the suckling body of Shiva, immersed in the pleasure of reverse sexual intercourse with him. These three separate views of the supreme goddess Kali have influenced her modern iconography. Also, the said variety, the goddess seated on the inert body of Shiva, is rarely used outside esoteric worship. In the Shakti Sangama Tantra, so we get to quite different description of Kali. In her supreme state, Kali is like describes Sanderson, just the light of pure consciousness. But in the creating state, she is depicted in a form more inspiring than charming. The supreme goddess is forever associated with the supreme god Shiva. The pair forming an indivisible unit. But in this late tradition, Kali often supersedes Shiva and acts independently to initiate creation. Also, creation is based on her aspect as Maya. This often appears to be a biological activity. This point is emphasized in the iconography of Kali and Tara, both of whom appear to be having coitus with Shiva, who is lying like a corpse. Shiva representation as a corpse emphasizes his total inertness and passivity in the act of creation. The initiative in the creation belongs to the goddess. Therefore Shiva is not a corpse, but is only depicted as one. The Todala Tantra emphasizes this point. Kali association with the Vishnu as a Vishnu Maya is also underscored in this tradition. In order to enhance the supremacy of the goddess, the Devi Mahatmya took over the early Vaishnava myth of the creation of the earth from the marrow and fat of two demons called Madhu and Kaitavha, and replaced Vishnu with Devi as the slayer of the demons. The Kalika Purana in fact calls the cult of the supreme goddess Vaishnavi Tantra, and the main mantra, which is salutation to the supreme deity with some mystical syllables added, indeed addresses that deity. Om Hrim Shrim Vaishnavi Namah. This has been noted by one scientist. Thus, though the Devi Bhagavati, also eternal, manifests herself again and again for the protection of the world, O King, clearly echoing the famous description of Vishnu, Krishna avatars in the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Both the Todala Tantra and Shakti Sangama Tantra make some sort of equation between the 10 avatars of Vishnu and the 10 great Vidya emanation of the goddess. Her closeness to Vishnu Krishna is often mythicized when she is cast as Vishnu's sisters or the embodiment of Vishnu's Maya. In late traditions, the goddesses superseded all the three cosmic gods, Brahma, Vishnu and Rudra. The Shakti Sangama Tantra describes the creative activity of the goddess Kali as follows. Dashina, compassionate Kali, the primeval goddess who was dancing the dance of cosmic dissolution, surrounded by howling jackals and other carrion devouring beasts. The destroyed universe lay at her feet like a heap of corpses. Kali is a pure consciousness, totally transcendent, the unique being. She subdues both Shiva and the divine power, Shakti. At a certain primordial moment, Kali suddenly saw inside herself her own mirror, image or shadow, which is indeed delusion, Maya. In that Maya, Kali created the imagined form of Shiva, who became the primeval god and Kali's spouse. Kali then created empty space and the chaos of the destroyed universe disappeared as she engaged in sexual intercourse with Shiva, taking the reverse position Viparitarati and the active role. After a long coitus, Kali produced one fetus, which developed into a perfectly beautiful girl whom Kali called Sundari, the beautiful lady. Her beauty completely deluded Shiva, who wanted to put into words his agitation and longing. Shiva's longing and desire for self-expression produced speech, Vak, which from its central unity developed into the system of sounds, letters and language and become all-pervasive. Shiva, however, on creating speech, first addressed the goddess Sundari as his heart's desire. The loveliest in the three worlds, the exquisite sovereign deity and the ocean of nectar-like compassion. Next, Shiva addressed Kali as most terrifying, howling, like a jackal, cruel, fanged, and fearfully ugly, with a lolling tongue and frightening roar. As Shiva uttered these two sentences addressing the two goddesses, Kali, as if offended, suddenly disappeared, leaving Shiva with Sundari. the product of delusion, to get on with the task of creation. Kali, who is transcendent and the essence of the creation, transformed herself in the abstract cosmic dynamic power. But Shiva became utterly despondent and confused without Kali. Therefore, the compassionated Kali removed Shiva's confusion and infused him with the impeded cognitive knowledge and desire to procreate. Moreover, in order to infuse him with the power, she taught Shiva the method of Tantric Kundalini Yoga and gave him as his partner the beautiful goddesses who is indeed the mother of universe, Ambika, the cosmic creatrix. This myth neatly puts forward the idea that the transcendent supreme divinity is female, that she is the goddess Dakshina Kali, who contains both the cosmic male and a female polarity, that she is the sovereign cosmic ruler who regulates the system of creation, and that the creation is based on the cosmic delusion, which is in her mirror image. This divine delusion, named Maya or Mahamaya, is the Kali's divine capacity, which ensures that in spite of the perfect oneness of Kali and Shiva, the latter is separated in imaginary form by means of Kali delusory power. She is then deluded into thinking herself to be a separate divinity from Kali, and so feels the attraction of the delusory image of Sundari. Thus the main idea of monism, which emphasizes the unity of a single universal essence and establish the illusoriness of the dualistic worldview, is put forward through a creation myth. The polarized male and female cosmic divinities are a result of delusion. In reality, the supreme goddess Kali is unique and immutable, yet she is the source and a foundation of all creation. Kali, the eternally existent reality, transcends both creation and the dissolution of the creation. The appearance of her beautiful mirror image Maya heralds creation as an evolutionary process, and at the point of primeval creation Kali, the pure consciousness who exists beyond the reach of speech and phenomenal creation, disappears behind delusion and its influence, desire, and becomes the cosmic dynamic energy activating the ongoing process of creation. Shiva, at the point of creation, is a primordial consciousness entity, Purusha. He possesses Vidya, omniscience, and Ichha Shakti, sexual desire, to procreate, and he is called Sadashiva, who together with Sundari becomes the primordial couple. In Tantric ontology, he is Shiva Tattva, the cosmic self. The evolving Shakti, who is identical with the Supreme Goddess, is known as Vidya Tattva. Together with the individual self, Atma Tattva, they constitute the cosmic realities who are ultimately one and the same. The nature of the Supreme Goddess, Mahadevi, and that of Supreme Delusion, Mahamaya, are expounded in the Devi Mahatmya. The goddess is called Mahamaya, the great delusion, when she is seen as responsible for the unsatisfactory and transient nature of this life. The real cause of this is human desire for possession and procreation, and Mahamaya deludes individuals by making desire their innate quality. But paradoxically, the goddess is also identified as a supreme knowledge, Vidya, which releases individuals from their bondage of desire and their consequent endless succession of lives and deaths. This is one of the many paradoxes that constitute the mystery of the goddess' divine nature. Another important statement in Devi Mahatmya identifies Maya with Prakriti, which in the dualistic Sankhya philosophy is a primordial evolving matter. This identity was the first recording in the Shvatara Upanishad. On the basis of such passage, it seems safe to say that the Devi Mahatmya has shifted the focus of the Sankhya school and the Svetashvara Upanishad by understanding Prakriti not as a material shroud or possession of spirit, but itself supremely divine as Devi herself. The Shakti Sangama Tantra confirms that view by saying that the Supreme Shakti, that is the goddess, is Prakriti, whereas her mirror image is the evolving power Mahamaya. Thus, Prakriti here refers to the Supreme Goddess, who ultimately is the unique source and origin of all, there being nothing outside of her. The Todala Tantra endorses this theological tradition in the accounts of the nature of the goddess Dakshinakali and other Vidya emanations. Other important texts for the development of Kali and her Mahavidya cult are the Chinachara Krama Tantra, Matrika Bheda Tantra, Gupta Sadhana Tantra, Kalika Purana, Brahma Vaivarta Purana, Brahmanda Purana, and other tantric records of the period. The silent feature of the tradition is the total supremacy of the goddess Kali. The speciality of the Shakti Sangama Tantra myth is that it neatly puts forward just this point. Prakriti, or the feminine source of the universe, is Mahamaya, who is not Kali but her mirror image. Kali transcends her own evolving mirror image. In the universe of Mahamaya, both delusion and cognition function. In the case of Shiva, his delusion is restricted to his sexual desire for Sundari, whereas his cognitive knowledge is other side untrammeled. In this sense, it's possible to find a parallel between the three goddesses Kali, Mahamaya and Sundari, and the three goddesses Para, Parapara and Apara of the Trika tradition. Sundari corresponds to the third deity of the Trika triad, that is Apara. The Todala Tantra confirms this with the statement that she is called the fivefold lady, Panchami, because she is differentiated as the five cosmic elements. Om Tat Sat.